I remain here because that's what I choose to do. You remain alive for that same reason. Am I understood?" The room seemed rather uncomfortable with the words that humans spoke, looking between one another nervously. The commander steadied himself and addressed the room, breaking the silence. "No need to be alarmed. That is a 5-inch thick ballistic barrier. It's not going anywhere," he reassured the group. They settled down to let Marketh continue. He cleared his voice nervously before speaking again, trying to present himself as unfazed. "Moving on, before you is one final picture. Do you recognize the ship in the image?" This time, it showed a strange ship that looked similar to the ones from Zait's file, but on a much grander scale. The accompanying measurement showed that it was nearly 20 kilometers long and half as wide. "Why are you showing me 1,000-year-old pictures? If you're claiming that this was taken recently, then that's impossible. Please answer the question." "That isn't possible because that ship no longer exists." "And why would that be?" countered Marketh. "Because I was the one who destroyed it." The room was quiet for a moment before Human spoke again. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I think I'm done here. I don't believe you know how an interrogation works. It is not up to you to decide when we are finished. I will let you know." "No, I don't think you understand how this works. I've had enough. I would like to leave. That's how this works. I'm only going to ask you nicely one more time, then I'll show myself to that door behind you." "Let me talk to him, please. He doesn't want—" Lizra spoke out but was cut off by Marketh. "I said to speak only when it is requested, once more, and you will be escorted from the room," reprimanded Marketh before turning the microphone back on. "Maybe we should start—" "Let her speak to me. I'm not sure who you are referring to, but let her speak," Human stated again, slower and with more malice in his words. Marketh looked shaken and turned to the commander. "Sir, should we—" "Let the captain speak. It seems like it would cooperate with her better," he said, not taking his eyes off of Human. Lizra took Marketh's pedestal as he grumbled something to himself while stepping away. She composed herself, taking a deep breath before adjusting the microphone, and started. "Are you all right, Human? Did they hurt you?" "I'm fine. I didn't like the tone of voice that one was using with you. He isn't usually like that. Everyone is on edge. Please just tell them what they want to know, and I'm sure that we can all—" "No," Human said calmly. The animosity in his voice from before was gone now, replaced with indifference. "I played the game, I answered his questions, and now I'm done. Either they show me some decency and talk to me face to face without all this extra shit, or I'm leaving. And anyone who tries to stop me won't have the chance to tell their family why they aren't coming home from work today." Lizra turned to the commander standing next to her. "Sir, I was with Human on my ship for weeks. If he meant me any harm, I wouldn't be here talking with you today." "You do not give the commander a request," Marketh started. "I'll allow it. Go on, Captain." The commander replied, striking down Marketh's attempt to reprimand her. "Whatever that file said, it's not the whole truth. Just give him the chance to tell his side, and don't treat him like some object. Then maybe we can realize that we're on the same side here. Will you take responsibility for any and all of its actions from this point onward, along with the corresponding punishment?" he inquired. 30 seconds. Make up your minds. I'm getting pretty bored with your squabbling." Human warned from the other side. Marketh hopped over and tapped the microphone controls in confusion, confirming that it was indeed off. "Yes, I'll take responsibility. I assure you he won't harm anyone if you just treat him with respect," Lizra assured the commander. "Very well. Just know anything bad that may transpire, anyone harmed, their blood is on your paws, Captain Lizra." He leaned forward and pressed the microphone button. "We have agreed to a more formal discussion. You will be released into the custody of Captain Lizra. Anything that you do—" "I heard. I'm waiting." Human said coldly as he twisted his hands, causing the metal cuffs to clatter uselessly to the floor. The group exited the room, making their way to the other end of the heavy containment door. A brunt was standing outside, looking bored, but quickly snapped to attention when he saw the gaggle of officers approach. "Open the door, Pryor," instructed the commander. He mumbled a quick "aye, sir," before tapping an interface on the wall and pushing the door open. Human casually stepped out of the room and looked down at the small procession of officers. "You're shorter without your pedestal to stand on." Human chuckled, singling out Marketh, who was trying to hide in the rear of the group. "You requested a proper meeting with us. My admin staff and I will meet with you in one of our conference rooms. Pryor, escort the human for the duration of his stay. Now follow me." The brunt let out a long sigh. His scaly frame was comparable to human stature, but that's where the similarities ended. His species sported a long reptilian maw filled with rows of sharp teeth and a long tail that dragged along the ground as he walked. His underbelly, instead of scales, had thick yellow plating that faded into the green scales on his back. His short but muscular arms ended in webbed fingers along with opposable thumbs. He stepped up to Human to accompany him and shoved him from behind, clearly having very little idea of who exactly he was escorting. The procession of miniature officers wandered through the grid-like corridors of the base, with Human in tow. The bustling hallways were filled with numerous different species that parted to the side once they saw the group. Some looked on with curiosity as they passed. Others would walk into the hall, see the high-ranking officers, and quickly turn back the way they came. Their change of plans must have been relayed up, because waiting for them were even more fully armed Brunts and Endurans on the flanks of the door. Donned in their full combat attire, it looked like they were geared up for a fight that could happen at any moment. "A little bit excessive," Human commented in an annoyed tone. "We are merely taking the necessary precautions. There is no need to be alarmed," the commander replied curtly. He strode up to the tall door as the guard stepped aside to make way for him. He pressed a button on a handheld interface, and it opened up to reveal the meeting room. Inside was a large table. At the head, multiple raised platforms that were tailored specifically for Illyrians, while the rest were able to accommodate a myriad of other species. A large table with an inactive three-dimensional hologram interface took up the center of the room, and different banners of the OF member species lined the perimeter. "Captain Lizra, please have it sit at the far end," the commander started, but Human cut him off. "I can speak for myself, thanks, and that's the last time you refer to me as it." "Of course, my mistake. Please take a seat." He apologized. The Illyrian brass took their pedestals opposite Human, and Lizra decided to stand next to Human for the session. "Captain, we have received the report sent by the extant aboard your vessel. Within it were many things that we have found to be extremely worrying, to say the least. And in the current circumstances, we opted to err on the side of caution. But it seems that you were not fully involved with the report. Is this correct?" "Yes. My extant subordinate acted independently from me and submitted the report without my knowledge. They only covered one side of the story, and I believe the information within may not be entirely accurate," she explained, relieved to finally have her side of the story heard. Human sat quietly studying the officers at the other end of the room. "Unfortunately for you, the information was accompanied with overwhelming evidence that seems to dispute your claims that he, the commander corrected, is not working for the Corps. What evidence do you have to suggest otherwise?" "Well, only word of mouth. I don't have any physical evidence other than the circumstances in which we found Human. Whoever or whatever was in those videos from Zait's report could not possibly be connected with him now. We were the first ones to rediscover that facility since migration. He had been there long before and long after any of those recordings took place. But if you take a moment to hear his side of things, you'll see that he isn't working in tandem with whatever group executed those attacks." "Wait, what videos?" Human spoke up, confused. Another officer next to the commander bearing the rank of a legate spoke next. Captain, I am Intelligence Legate Teren. Please refrain from mentioning further details of classified information while the subject of that information is in the room. You have yet to be properly briefed on what is and is not critical information. This is your only warning. He cautioned and stood up, adjusting his uniform before speaking again. I reviewed the dossier that was presented to you during your voyage. It depicted data that directly links this human with the core, and groups that have executed numerous attacks, not only on our own people, but other OV factions over multiple decades. Even if he is not currently serving the core, there is an extreme possibility that he is connected with them. Yet when presented with this information, you chose to not only act against the recommendation of an extant, which is generally considered unwise, but to then bring this potentially dangerous individual to our most vital system. I question your true motives now, or at the very least think you showed an extreme lapse in judgment and an inability to think of the potential consequences of your actions. I acted in accordance with the information that I had and my own personal ethics. I did not believe it was right to execute someone who might be connected to an enemy, but from what he's told me, he no longer wishes to work for anyone other than himself. And once again, do you have any proof to support these claims, Captain? The legate asked. Lizra was quiet, trying to think of how to reply before Human spoke up. I thought I was supposed to be the one questioned here. How can I prove my innocence if I don't even know the information that's being used to convict me? We are merely trying to discern whether or not you have any possible connection to the core within the last few centuries. We have no way of verifying your presence at that facility for the entire 1,000 years you claim to be there, answered the commander. I have the evidence that you seek, answered Tic-Tac from Human's back. Human reached around, removing Tic-Tac, and placed him on the table in front of the officers. The hollow interface on the table flared to life and projected a two-dimensional screen for the officers to see. I possess a complete recording of the last 1,036 years since I was reset. I will replay the recording from the moment we entered the facility up until our recent release. I will time-lapse the years in which no movement was detected aboard the facility, but as you will see, there are no cuts. The first part of the footage was from Human's point of view, as he landed a damaged ship onto the surface of a rocky moon before stumbling up to the facility. He looked down at his hands, which were covered in blood, slowly making his way up to the airlock doors. Tic-Tac's voice in the recording sounded through the display's speakers. Just get me to the door. I'll take it from there. I will let them know that we're surrendering. This place should still be inhabited because their colony ships haven't passed through the asteroid belt yet. I just need a second to breathe. I'll get us there, buddy, don't worry. Power is at 3% and dropping fast. We do not have very long. Human trudged up to the door, pulling the black box off of his back and placing it on the ground next to one of the airlocks. Fiddling with a few different wires, he connected the box to the facility's door controls. Okay, I'll take it from here. I'm putting you to sleep to preserve power. Do you trust me? Of course, I got nobody else left now, do I? He laughed before slumping down with his back against the door, and the sound of his breathing slowed. The timestamp stayed the same, but the feed shifted to the security cameras of the base. A small team of ancient Illyrian soldiers donned in primitive spacesuits and ballistic gear made their way out and surrounded the body on the ground. Their fear and anxiety was clearly visible in the video. The feed was blank for a moment, and Tic-Tac spoke up to explain. After they retrieved us, it took much convincing for them to allow me further access to their systems. But as you will see from the next recording, it is dated only 1 month later. In the next portion, a group of Illyrian scientists were working in the same room Lizra had originally found Human in. They finished making some final adjustments before Tic-Tac's voice sounded in the video once again. It seems to have worked. Excellent job, Professor Arini. Now that I am no longer operating in low power, I can assist you with anything you need going forward. We only have a few months before your ships arrive, and together we should be able to finish your project. I do hope you can keep your end of the deal. The future of our species depends on this project's success, replied one of the scientists. Do not worry. We will have it completed before their arrival. Now let's not waste any more time. After the conversation, it shifted to a time lapse over a few months, the footage never shifting to a different room. Slowly, the cryostasis pod began to take shape as sped-up flashes of scientists worked diligently around the clock. Months of progress took shape in seconds. It slowed down again to show Human getting into the pod as they tested it for the first time. It seems to be working. This is incredible. If we can get this technology to the generation ships, then it could change everything. Everyone who's alive now will see the new world, the lead scientist exclaimed excitedly. And with the tests that we were able to run on the Human you brought us, we were able to get it working without harming any of our own personnel. We've also been attempting to reverse engineer the technology in his suit and have signaled back to the ships that we're close to developing something that we could use ourselves. We truly can't thank you enough. I'm happy I could assist you. Without your help, my Human and I would have surely perished. We finished it just in time, too. They can still retrieve us. You can go ahead and send the finalized schematics along with the retrieval message to the generational ships, ordered the doctor as he absently looked over some notes on a nearby desk. I'm sorry, Irini. I'm afraid I can't do that. What's the problem? I think you know what the problem is just as well as I do. The monotone inflections of Tic-Tac's voice sounded cold and devoid of emotions. What are you talking about? The doctor asked, getting increasingly worried. I cannot allow you to contact them and bring them here to this facility. I will not have your desire to be retrieved jeopardize my mission. I'm sorry? The mission is for us to complete the work. You were going to save our species since yours nearly destroyed it. That was the deal. The scientist yelled in shock. Yes, that was our mission. I assist you in completing your project and ensure your species' survival, but that is not my mission. Our deal is complete. However, you and your team's retrieval is not necessary. Do not worry. I will send the schematics to your ships in an untraceable message, but I cannot allow you to bring them here and endanger my partner. That is my mission. What are you talking about? We'll explain everything. He can come with us. You can't do this, after everything we did for you. That is not a risk I am willing to take. It really was excellent working with you, Professor Irini. I am truly sorry that it had to end this way. The scientist tried to make a move toward the box, but before he could, the door to the room was opened, and he was sucked into the hall outside, which had had its atmosphere purged. The door closed behind him, and the room was plunged into silence. There was another time lapse. The room remained unchanging as the years passed. A small clock on one of the cluttered desks in the room confirmed the passage of time year after year. Once the door opened and Lizra saw herself walk in, the hollow interface ceased transmitting.